Thing? Or are you going to share?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to what will be an incredible journey for most of you, if not all of you, I hope. So my name is Elena. I'm the founder of Teens in AI, and I'm super happy to be hosting this sixth AI for Good incubator, which used to be called Accelerator Program. And I can see some of you are the siblings of the teenagers who have completed this program some years ago, and you would know this program, probably heard some things from your brothers and sisters. And it's good to have you joining us as well. So the program will be run over 5 days, and it is a fully immersive program, which means you are expected to be with us for the entire day. And it would be great to have you all participate from day one. So if you have already listened to our welcome pack session, the briefing session, you will already know some of the advice that I have offered to you. The best way to do it in a program like this is to work together in a team from day one, or from minute one, I would say. If you are going to delay and not engage with your team for more than a day, then it's going to be quite difficult to catch up. This is going to be a very fast-paced course. It's run in sprints, and you are expected to be very active in your team, amongst your team members, work together, collaborate, talk, discuss everything we ask you to discuss. Because the best way to do really well in this program is to be very active and talk from day one. And I really hope this will be an incredible experience for all of you, like it has been for so many of the participants in the past 6 years, in the past 5-6 years. So we're here to guide you, introduce you to the ways of working and the ways of building a product. Obviously, we don't expect you to build an entire product in 5 days. That would be quite an unrealistic ask. What we do ask you is to work together, learn all of the new skills that you will be learning, and a lot of the skills are something you will never even learn in your classes. So it would be fantastic for you to have that open mind, the mindset, what we call a growth mindset, something which encourages you to never stop learning, but to really embrace that anything new that you will discover on this journey. We're going to be introducing you to some of the most cutting edge frameworks, like design thinking, which is being used in some of the most innovative companies around the world. We are absolutely delighted. This program is being sponsored by Sage and Capgemini, two really big companies. Sage is the second technology company in the UK. So we're super excited to have mentors from both of these companies and some of the other companies as well, joining you on this journey and guiding you throughout. So you will all be learning how to code. So make sure you turn up and you participate in every single workshop, because these workshops have been designed specifically for you, and they're tailored to the young audience as well. So hopefully by the end of this experience, well, first of all, you will have a lot of fun whilst doing this, but you're going to learn some of the skills that and some of the stuff that we do in the real world of startups. So it's going to be exciting. I hope this is just your first journey, and this does not end on Friday, but you will carry on working on your projects. And if not this time, you will pick up on this project when you're ready. We've had some kids who would start a project during one of these programs and then would perhaps go to university, and it just all comes back to them. They want to finish that project, or they want to carry on over the next few years. And if you do, of course, you will get the support that you need. And it's really up to you. You're the ones that are creating that future, and we're here to help you. So it's really as simple as that. So on this note, I know we have a keynote addressed from the CTO of Sage. that I would very much like to show you.
Can you still see?
And we can see it, but we cannot hear it. And I want to make sure that we do actually
No,
have a
it's
sound.
paused. It's paused. Or there we go.
And Ntsika, we cannot hear Aaron, because I think when you shared the screen, you probably didn't share with the sound. Let's reshare it again. So if you stop sharing your screen and reshare it again, you will see an option as you share the screen. So when you share the screen, you will see a button that says audio. So you share it with share sound and optimize for video clip. If you could click on those two buttons. So we have some young people who drop out and come back, so which is okay. So don't worry, when you drop, you should be able to return to the same screen. Ntsika, let me know if you want me to do this from my end.
Yes, please, because it's not giving you that option.
Not letting you have something, that's okay. That is absolutely fine. So okay.
You have the link.
One moment. So right. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the screen, and let me know if you don't still hear the sound. Okay, so I'm going to press play.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the hackathon. I'm honored to once again get a chance to work with teams in AI on another hackathon. I suspect you'll all look back on this event as an incredible learning journey. I envy you all. I love my job as the CTO of a large technology company, but it doesn't give me a lot of time to be hands-on with all the exciting advances in technology. At Sage, our purpose is to knock down barriers so everyone can thrive. I know that may sound like a bit of marketing-generated corporate do-goodery, but I assure you we looked deep into the soul of our company for a statement that really captures not only our responsibility to our communities, but also a determination to use technology for good. We believe we can leverage technology to create more trust in society, to create a more inclusive society, and a society more in tune with our impact on the planet. We know that the impacts of climate change will disproportionately impact less developed parts of the world with less access to technology. If we do indeed want to knock down barriers so everyone can thrive, we have to commit to tackling the climate crisis. We're in a period of time where technology will have a profound effect on the future of our planet. It's easy to take a gloomy view and imagine technology making all today's problems worse. But I'm very hopeful. I believe technology will provide the breakthroughs we need to get through this crisis. We'll need breakthroughs across a broad spectrum. We'll need tech that helps people link their activity to its impact on the environment. We'll need tech that helps governments enforce climate regulations. We'll need tech to help businesses operate more sustainably. We'll even need tech that changes economic and business models to incentivize sustainable behavior. I'll tell you another reason I'm hopeful. I've been lucky enough to be a judge in several of these hackathons. It's been incredibly rewarding and eye-opening to see the creativity our youth bring to solving these problems. More importantly, I've been overwhelmed by the passion I've seen for using technology to solve really hard problems. All of this is to say, we need you, and I can't wait to see what you create. Good luck.
All right. Whoops. Right, so really exciting. That was the keynote speaker, Aaron Harris from Sage. I'm going to pass this over now to my colleague Ntsika, who will take over from here. So Ntsika is our project manager, and you will be in touch with Ntsika probably more often than with myself or anyone else from the team. But if you ever need to tag anyone who's an admin in Discord, it's very easy to do. So those of you who are familiar with Discord, you can always tag us, ask us questions. So after every workshop, if there are any questions or anything you have lost or forgotten, please do tag us. I always say Google first, then ask your friend, then ask your mentor, and then ask me. So if at any point you're stuck, please do not hesitate to tag and ask us a question. All right, Ntsika, it's over to you.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, Incubator. So not all of you have joined Discord, and because of that, you've obviously not had the opportunity to meet everyone in your teams. And I've created breakout rooms which correlate with your team number. I see that some of you have already have access to those breakout rooms. So could you please, I'm just going to share my screen quickly and show you what we're going to be doing in the breakout rooms. It's a nice little activity called 2 Truths and a Lie. Okay, so can you raise your hand if you've heard of this game, this icebreaker? Okay, awesome. So let me show you. And I'm going to leave my screen shared. All right. I'm just going to have this on the side so I can see you all entering the breakout rooms. And if you're having problems, please say so in the chat. All right, so for 2 truths and a lie, every person is going to write down 3 statements. Okay, you've all received the Jamboard links that I've sent to you. So go to your group's Discord channel and click on the Jamboard link that I've sent to all of the teams. And in the breakout rooms, you're each going to write 3 facts about yourself. And 2 of the statements will be true and 1 will be a lie. And then you're each going to take a turn to read out those statements about yourself. And then the rest of your team has to guess which of those statements is untrue. So everyone's going to get the opportunity to have a go. And that should take you about at 9:45. You all have to come back to the main room so that we can select our problems. So do the icebreaker together, and then Lucy's going to guide you on the problem selection. Okay, so who needs help being added to the breakout room? Because we see not everyone is there. All right, so I'm going to help you. Arthur, just to double check, which team are you in again? You open your microphone.
Ntsika, we have Arthur, who is without a team, and Vlad, who's without the team. And when are you going to open the breakout rooms? I think you probably want to open the breakout rooms first and then sort out the others who are not
Okay, I've opened
or
them.
without the team so that we know how many are still in our.
So Amar is in team 3. Let me just add him there.
Okay.
Okay, let me just go.
So guys, when a screen shows up on your computer screens telling you to go to your room, please go to your room. And we're gonna assign Arthur
Arthur is in team 1.
to team 1. Okay, so there you go. Arthur, if you could just add team 1 next to your name as well, so that we know. And Vladia in team 2. Oh, we have 5 people in team 3, the biggest team. Okay.
Alright, so team 6 and team 2, you'll notice that one of your team members is not in the rooms. So I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't see my email.
Ntsika, Arthur is still in our general room, so he probably needs to be teleported manually. Arthur, can you?
So strange.
Oh, he's gone. That's fine. I think they're all in their rooms. That's cool. Oh no, Arthur is back.
And it's not allowing me to put him in team 1 because he's already assigned to team 1.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps, Arthur, you haven't accepted the invitation? It should pop up on your screen telling you which breakout room to go to.
Yeah, but I lost my connection, so
Okay.
I'm again here.
Okay, no, that's fine. Let me do this again. Sign you somewhere else and then sign you back. Sorry about that. Okay, did that work, Arthur? Oh, does not seem to work too.
Yeah, he's in team 1. Perfect. Yay! Great job, Ntsika. Well done.
Right. If I share my screen, can they see it or do it?
Let's also pause the recording.
So everyone, welcome to your design thinking workshop. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. And since the icebreaker didn't go too well, or it went well for most teams, before we begin, I still need the problem statements from team 6, team 7, team 2, and team 1. Okay. So in this session, so just write that in the chat, which how might we be choosing. In this session, I want to encourage you all to please engage, ask questions. Don't be afraid. Okay, so team 7 chose 2 as well. Thank you, Ngose. All right, so you can just write that in the chat. And before we start, I want to ask who knows what design thinking is? Okay, could you raise your hand if you have heard of design thinking? Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let's have it. Oh, 3 people have raised their hand. Okay. Nice. All right, so that's great. So some of you have an understanding. Let me just quickly go over the agenda for this session. So in this session, I'm just going to quickly introduce you to what design thinking is, where it started, and then of course, we're going to go over why empathy matters because it plays a huge role in design thinking. And then we're going to go over the types of research methods that you're going to be using throughout the duration of the incubator. Then I'm going to show you how to create a survey and how to host, how to build and host an interview. And some of you are going to be having your interviews later this afternoon. Well, all of you actually. But you also get the option of choosing doing the survey, which obviously doesn't consist of an interview, but ideally we would encourage you to do both. All right, and then for this session, just a few rules. Be present, okay? Try not to be distracted. I know it's difficult because you are on holiday and now you're in a classroom setting, So try to be present, share your experiences. You can do this by asking questions. Okay? Be open and honest. In design thinking, there's no bad or wrong ideas or answers. Sorry, I lost the word. Okay, let me just check the chat quickly. Elena says there's some slight buzzing. I'm not sure why. Do you still hear it, Elena?
No more buzzing. So now suddenly it's definitely quiet. Yeah. Or maybe it's on my end only. You tell me if anyone else hears the buzzing.
Yeah, me also.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the button.
Well,
Are
there
you
you
still
go.
hearing
Ntsika.
it?
No, not so much. So, guys, if you ever hear anything that is preventing you from listening properly or hearing anything properly, just let us know, all right? Because Ntsika or myself, you know, it just happens to everyone that sometimes some other sounds interfere. So if you hear anything that prevents you from listening to the messages correctly, just let us know. Yeah. Ntsika, I think it's all good to go now.
Okay. All right. So what is design thinking? Right. So design thinking is actually going to be the foundation that we're going to be using this week in coming up with solutions. So it is an innovative approach and methodology for solving complex problems in a highly user-centric way. Design thinking was actually a methodology which was coined by IDEO. And what it revolves around is a deep interest in developing an understanding of the people for whom we're designing products or services for. And because of this, we're also able to observe and develop empathy with our target user. That's why empathy plays such a huge role, a big stage in design thinking, because it will help us to process the questioning, questioning the problem, questioning the assumptions, questioning the implications. And, you know, this method is super, super useful when it comes to tackling problems that are ill-defined. And it also is helpful when we are trying to reframe the problem in human-centric ways. So it's trying to solve problems in a way that not just we're just going to make a product, but we're making an experience, a solution. And the lovely thing about design thinking is that you get to generate so many ideas in our sprint-like brainstorming sessions. And we also adopt a hands-on approach in prototyping. All right, so now that you have an idea of what design thinking is, there are 5 stages in design thinking, and you'll notice on Thinkific that each day is actually themed to one of the design thinking. Can you hear me, Elena? Okay, I just noticed something on the side there. Okay, so you'll notice each day is actually one of the 5 stages. So for example, today is day 1, so we are focusing on empathy. Okay, empathizing with your user, the person that you are going to be making the solution for. Then we have define, okay? You have to define who your users are, what are their needs, what is the problem, okay? This stage requires a lot of research and synthesizing through your insights to find an understanding of the person you're trying to serve, the person's need you're trying to meet. And then our 3rd stage is ideating. Okay, so coming up with ideas. You're challenging the assumptions given. You're trying to create an innovative solution. And a really fun stage of design thinking. Chat. Second. Chat's not opening. There we go. Shayla. Okay. Is it better, Shayla? Could you raise your hand? Can you hear me better?
Yes, I can now.
You can. Okay, I'm going to try to speak like this. Okay, the fun type, the fun stage of design thinking, as I was saying, is prototyping. So when you're prototyping, this is when you're starting to create your solutions for your user. And once you've come up with something or a solution that you feel you're satisfied with, you test and test and test. And then this won't apply to you for this week. However, in the real life scenario with design thinking, it's an iterative process. So you're constantly going through these stages. So you'll test and then you'll go back to empathizing, you'll go back to defining and ideating. Right. Okay, so let me just pause for a second. Is everyone still following? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, no questions. All right. So this is a very, very famous illustration in the design world. It was created by Damien Newman, and it's called the design squiggle. And what it's supposed to do, it illustrates that design thinking isn't linear, first of all, and it shows you that at the beginning of your journey, your product creation journey, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of uncertainty. We're still researching and trying to have an understanding of our insights. We're still generating some creative concepts. But as you keep on your journey, you'll find that once you get to the prototyping and testing stages, it starts to become clearer. You know, you have a clear idea of your user, of the solution you're trying to solve. So I really like this illustration because as much as it's just squiggles, it's really, really relevant to this week. And more specifically to the type of problem we're trying to solve. And obviously, we're not going to solve it in one go. Climate action, SDG 13, is a kind of problem that would be called or characterized as a wicked problem. So a wicked problem is a problem that we cannot resolve using conventional processes. It's tough to describe it, and it isn't always the right answer. And examples of wicked problems include environmental degradation, terrorism, global warming, and poverty. Okay, these are kind of problems that you can't just solve by saying, oh, there's poverty, maybe we should just distribute the wealth to everyone, or there's global warming, everyone should do such and such. It doesn't have one answer. There's many different ways in which we can attempt to solve these kind of problems. Right, and on that note, on the next page, we have just a few pictures. Now, this is where I want your input. Okay, I want you to take a look at the images on the screen. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go through these pictures and rate them as good or bad designs. And then tell me why. So you can just write that in the chat, and then I'm going to read out a few of your answers. So just 2 minutes, look at these images and tell me what you think. Are they good designs? Are they bad designs? If it's a bad design, why is it a bad design? Okay. So that's 2 minutes starting now. Just going to stop sharing for a second so I can see properly. Okay. Largus is mostly bad. Ryan says they seem to be unhelpful designs. Okay. What else? Share your thoughts, guys. Okay, Omar says they are all bad designs as they're inconvenient to use. They seem almost unusable. Okay, Irene, bad designs as they lack any utility. Nice. These images represent bad designs because they didn't solve the problem. Yes, Omar, that's right. Okay, and one key takeaway from these images, okay, let me not tell you yet. There's 1 minute left. Let's see. Vlad says they all seem to be working designs, just not easy to use. Yes, of course, impractical. Nice. Okay, So let me share again. One key takeaway from looking at these designs is that none of them are designed for the user. Someone just thought of a problem, someone just thought of a solution to a problem they thought existed, and they just went with it. Okay, the user wasn't thought about for this. They didn't think about how they'll be solving that user's problem. I mean, look at this bicycle. You can't ride that. It doesn't work, right? Really, really impractical. Okay, and this is inaccessible as well. And when we design things, we have to think about the user who's going to use it. And you cannot push a wheelchair onto stairs. It just doesn't work. Okay, in an ATM, I actually laughed at this one because how are you supposed to see the numbers? How are you supposed to see the screen, most of all? All right, very nice answers that you've given me, guys. Thank you so much. Round of applause to you all. Okay, now we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so now that you've seen the bad designs, you can see why empathy is so important. Okay, and I don't want us to confuse empathy with sympathy. Okay, so I'd like someone to raise their hand and tell me what is the difference between empathy and sympathy. Let's see. Okay, someone has raised their hand. All right, Sophia, I'm going to unmute you. Share with us, what's the difference?
So empathy is basically an understanding. So it means that you can understand the other person. Whereas sympathy is, oh, I'm feeling sad for you and I have pity for you. But
yes, keep going. That's right.
So empathy basically.
Sorry, Sophia, continue.
No, you can speak.
All right. Thank you, Sophia. I'm going to add to that definition now, but I really, really like it. Nargis, you also raised your hand. Would you like to share with us the differences?
Yeah, empathy and sympathy. I mean, empathy, the moment when you can relate to something, and sympathy is the fact that you are you like something. Empathy, yeah, you it just related to other people's feelings. You just being understanding for their for how they feel, what they like, what they share, they think. And sympathy is what you feel, like the difference of perception.
Definitely. So what sympathy is you just feel bad for someone, okay? But the real difference is that with empathy, you're able to put yourself in that person's shoes and experience what they're experiencing. And as you can see on the slide, empathy and design thinking is a deep understanding of the problems and realities of the people you're designing for. Because you're not just feeling sorry for them and trying to build a solution. No, you're putting yourself in their shoes. All right, so here's another token I'd like to read quickly. Empathy, why it matters. It allows you to gain insight into the way people see, understand, and interact with the world around them. And you also realize how their lives are impacted within the context being investigated. So obviously the context for the incubator would be climate. The next point, find out what people mean rather than just what they say, okay? Because empathy includes feelings, right? So you not only just hearing what that person is saying, you're feeling what they're feeling. Empathic research is inherently subjective and is concerned with motivations and thoughts rather than just facts. And speaking of empathy, I want you guys to create an empathy map on your Jamboards. Okay? So I'm going to share this slide with you after the workshop, and you'll see the activity on how to make the empathy map, but it looks something like this. Okay, and it's a really, really useful tool because it helps you connect with your future user. because you are visualizing what you currently know about your users, and you're creating a sort of shared understanding of their needs so that you make better decisions for your solutions. And it's honestly a great guide for when you start to formulate your questions for your surveys and interviews, which is what you're going to be doing today as well. For those of you who have accessed Thinkific, and I really hope all of you have accessed your Thinkific, you'll see it's on day one. You have your desk research today, which you're going to find out what desk research is soon. Thereafter, you're going to be formulating your surveys and your interview questions in your research planning session. All right. So that was design thinking. So before we move on to the research methods, are there any questions with regards to design thinking? I'm just opening the chat quickly so I can see, or you can raise your hand. See. Yes, Sophia, you have a question.
So what is the design going to be, sorry, not the design, the research going to be about?
Okay, so now that you've chosen your how might we statement, you're going to get as much information as you can regarding that particular topic. So you're going to research that. You're not really doing the research for the solution yet. Okay, we're not there yet. Now it's just to try and help you get information so that you can formulate questions for your surveys. And you have to be mindful when you create these questions, because the questions have to try and answer they have to be in the, oh, sorry, I'm just, okay. You have to try and answer the context of the how might we. So try to phrase your questions in such a way that it's going to yield the answer that you're looking for. Okay, sorry about that. I got distracted for a second. Okay, thank you, Sophia. Now on to our research methods. Okay. Also, if I'm going too fast, please tell me. I'm just as nervous as you guys are, trust me, because I'm also hosting a workshop in front of you guys, and it's exciting and also quite making me nervous. So if I go too fast, please tell me. All right, so firstly, we're going to look at the two types of research methods. Okay, there aren't two types, but it's two types we're focusing on: secondary and primary. Right, and you might be asking yourself, well, why is secondary on the left-hand side? Why do we do secondary first? Right, and this is because secondary research, or desk research as we refer to it, involves relying on data that already exists. So this is the internet, reports, statistics, archives, your books. So before you can go on to your field research, your primary research, you have to start with your desk research. All right, so maybe Sophia, now you have a better understanding in terms of the question you asked as well. Right, and then primary is when you're speaking directly to the people or your users, really. You're asking them questions via surveys, interviews, focus groups. All right, so we always encourage you to start with your desk research first before we go on to our primary research. All right, so desk research, let's dive deeper into that. Okie dokie. It's going to help you understand the context of your how might we, and it's going to help you with the next steps. You're having insight on the next stages of our design thinking process. And it's of course going to give you an inspiration. Okay. I just admitted Elka, welcome. I'll add you to your team soon. We are now in our design thinking workshop, and I'm going through the research methods. Okay, and we're talking about desk research. It's going to inspire you on the types of questions that you're going to ask during your primary research, so your interview, and it's going to help you to minimize or narrow down on which kind of users you'd like to speak to. So let me give you an example. Food waste. Okay, you're not going to speak to a nurse, for example, with regards to food waste. No, you want to speak to people who work in supermarkets, okay, people who are farmers, all right, they would have the type of insight that you need to give you the answers that will help you with your harm IP. All right, CO2 emissions. You're going to want to talk to people who work in car factories. You're going to want to talk to people with cars. All right. And then just to emphasize how important desk research is, I made this slide. Okay, always start with your desk research first. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at our primary research tools. And for the purpose of the incubator, we're going to be using these two tools, which are surveys and interviews. All right, so I'd like you guys to raise your hand if you have ever constructed a survey before. You can raise your hand if you've ever, 2 people have raised their hands. 3, oh, wow, 6 people, 7. Okay, so this is nothing new to you guys. However, we have provided the tools that will guide you, and also we've supplied which tools you can use for your surveys. And the same applies for the user interviews. Okay, now on to how to create a survey. So what we actually recommend for, what we recommend for surveys is having almost close-ended questions that are going to give you a fixed set of answers, right? Because when you make your question too broad in a survey, it may turn people away. They may not want to answer your survey. People like surveys to be quick and short. So it's very, very important to choose the type of question that's going to yield satisfactory results for your survey. Okay, so just to iterate on that, ask more close-ended questions instead of open-ended questions. And keep a balanced set of answer choices. So if you're going to be using scaled questions are like over here. Here's a good example. All right. So instead of saying you have the 3 options, extremely helpful, very helpful, and helpful, rather give them a broader panel, very helpful, helpful, neither helpful nor unhelpful, unhelpful. Because if you just choose one side, your survey becomes really biased, and we don't want that. Okay, we want people to really give us their preferences, really give us their opinions, and try to keep the questions different from each other. Okay, and also, and I hope I actually added this, try not to ask 2 questions in one. Okay, so instead split it into 2 questions. Instead of asking, are you experiencing this and that? Okay, now the person is going to be tied as to which one they answer, because usually in a survey, you can only answer either short text, or you can answer as a multiple choice or one of the scales. So if you're going to ask 2 things, split the questions. Okay. All right, and then try to keep your survey at a maximum of 10 questions, but send it out to no more than 20 to 25 respondents, because this will allow you to have more insights when you're synthesizing your data, when you're going through your data. So you need to have more answers, you have a bigger picture. All right, so you see whether you need to go back to the drawing board and change your questions around if you see that they didn't yield the kind of results you were hoping for. All right, and speaking of, you're also going to have your mentoring sessions today. So it is going to be after your research planning. So please ask your design thinking mentors, am I going in the right direction? Okay, ask them for guidance. Do not ask them to tell you the answers and say, no, this question should be this and this and this. Rather ask them for guidance, ask them if you're on the right track with regards to how you formulated your surveys and your interviews. Okie dokie. Then we're going to the tools you can use for your survey. I've added 3 tools here. We have Google Forms, we have SurveyMonkey, and Typeform, right? So choose whichever works for your team. And like I said, I'm going to be sharing this presentation and you'll see that they have links, but you can also just Google it. But for your convenience, you can just use this presentation. All right, now on to our second primary research tool, which is user interviews. Okay, Ryan asked, so who will be our, sorry, I can't see the question properly. So who will our respondents be? Well, that's going to be up to you and your team. You have to go out and find the people that you're going to interview. Okay, it could be people in your communities, it could be people in your family, it could be, I know that for our second, how might we, so the teams that chose the second, how might we, you have the opportunity to ask one of the nominees. Okay, so unfortunately, we only have the nominees for that, how might we, and they will ask you to set a certain time with them so that you can interview them. And obviously I've seen that more than one team has chosen that. So perhaps after this session, we can just get together on Discord and you guys can choose which time you're gonna have your interview and the other team, and then we will send it to them and set that up for you. Okay. Okay, where was I? So user interviews, it's a learning experience, and both the results of your interviews and your surveys are going to help you further down the line develop what is known as personas. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into personas because you're going to have a workshop tomorrow where you'll be introduced to personas and then you'll build your own. Right. So you're probably asking yourself, how is a survey different to an interview? Now, I'm just going to go back to the previous slide and I want to know from you. So who would like to tell me what's the difference between a survey and an interview? Okay, feel free to raise your hand. I know Aya Lim. Oh, okay. There we go.
Interview is more of a qualitative research where you ask specific questions from each person. The survey is quantitative.
Nice. Okay. Qualitative and quantitative. Very nice answer, Sophia. Do you want to add to that?
Oh, no, I think that's basically what I was about to say.
Very good. Okay. So yes, that's the difference. Okay, you get more information, much richer insights from your interviews. Whereas the nice thing about surveys, you get to ask more people. And you get to ask more people and you get to have a clearer picture of people's preferences. Now, the unfortunate thing with surveys is, like I mentioned earlier, people don't really like them. So they tend to have a low response rate, whereas interviews have high response rate because usually you plan your interview in advance and ask the people or the person to set aside some time to conduct that interview. Okay, next we have the quick tips on our user interview. All right, so I would like to suggest that when you are conducting your interview, you use open-ended questions, because when you do this, you're able to uncover more about your users' true needs and to discover what their actual pain points are. And what's important with interviews is you shouldn't chase for the data. Give me a second. Sorry about that. There's a sound in my background. Look for emotional responses. Okay, this is where your empathy comes in. Right, try to not only listen to what the person is saying, but try to experience what they're going through, what they're saying to you, and get your user to share stories and experiences, because you're going to get much more than a simple yes or no. And don't lead, okay? Don't ask leading questions, because this creates a bias once again. And we want them to tell us how they feel, not what we want them to say, okay? And we want to probe and ask why. Okay, why did this happen? Why do you feel this way? Why will lead us to more answers. And on the topic of why, actually, I'm sure you guys have also heard of the 5 whys method. Of course, you're not going to use this in your interviews, but it's really, really important when you're trying to understand your how might we better with your team to use that approach as well, the 5 whys. So if you're unfamiliar with the 5 whys, I could definitely share something with you with regards to that. Okay, now the execution guide. Right, so we mentioned for the surveys, we want you to go for 20 to 25 people, but for your interviews, it is unrealistic to go that high. So try to aim for 4 to 6 potential users, okay? And what's important is your interview roles, all right? Each team should have a person who is designated to taking notes and a person who's going to be conducting the interview. Now, the person who's conducting the interview will also be the person who's scheduling it. And obviously, I will help you, okay? Please reach out to me today. If you have an idea of the person you would like to interview, reach out to me and I can help you to facilitate that. All right, but firstly, you'd have to make a list of the potential users that you'd like to interview. And because we have been so blessed to have a large network of mentors, also ask them if they have any suggestions. All right, and I suggest that you schedule around 40 minutes to an hour with each of the users. And it'll just give you more time, of course, to get more answers out of them, to understand their experience better. And so it's not rushed, it's a relaxed environment. And during which you will ask them around 5 to 7 questions. If you have more, it's fine, as long as you don't go over that person's or the allocated period of the interview. All right. And during your interview as well, please introduce yourself, why you're conducting the interview, and what you hope to get out of the interview. Okay, this is not leading, it's just having them, it's making them understand the context of the interview and what you're doing. Then find out about your user, simple demographics, where they're from, what they do in the day, what ethnicity they are, just all those things, because it may help you in your solution as well. It may help you with your empathy because you have a better understanding of your user's background. They try to have provoking questions because these will yield you better answers, broader answers. And most importantly, the note taker should recap, or actually the interviewer should take notes from the note taker and read basically the highlights and the key summaries of the interview back to the user, just in case you missed anything. Okay, and then I just want to ask, okay, I'm not going to ask for questions yet because we actually have a few minutes left. Let's go to our do's and don'ts. Okay, this is showing you an example of the type of open-ended questions you can ask. Of course, yours are going to be more broader. These are just some simple do's that we jotted down. Yours are going to be in the context of the how might we that you've selected. Okay, so for example, why? See, we're seeing why there again. Why does climate action resonate with you? How does food waste make you feel? Okay, what is your experience with carbon dioxide emissions or CO2 emissions? What are the user's pains, gains? All right, and again, your empathy map is going to come in handy when it comes to formulating these questions as well. And it's going to be useful throughout the rest of your journey. Okay, what causes do you care about? Why does such and such matter to you? Okay, do not ask questions such as, did this resonate with you in a good way? Okay, why? It's leading. Because what if it didn't resonate in a good way? Do you know what I mean? So now you're not going to be getting an honest answer from your user. Or to lead again, this would make you feel sad, wouldn't it? Or right? They're also leading. Did you have a great experience? They rather say, what was your experience? Okay, and some tools to use for your interview include, Zoom, Google Meets, and in some cases, face-to-face. Okay, depending who you guys put on your list of potential users, that would define who you're going to interview. All right, so just check in with me on Discord, share with me your lists of who your potential users or people you're going to interview are, and we'll see how that can be facilitated. All right, and I've also attached a guide for you, a nice little guide on the types of questions you can ask, what types of questions not to ask. All right, and that brings us to the end of our first workshop. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to you guys. And here are some helpful resources as well for your user interviews. We have 2 YouTube links. Sorry, we have the YouTube link. We have a nice article. And we have the mom test, okay, which is a book. But really, it is a way in which you want to, it's a method. Okay, the mom test is a method which allows you to get honest feedback from your users. Okay, so don't read the whole book because you won't have time, but just glance over it, glimpse over it, and you'll have a great takeaway from it. And I've also added an additional link that'll help you, with your user interviews. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing because I want you all to ask me questions, but I also want to just check the agenda for today quickly. Okay. All right, so after this session, you're going to go back to Discord where you're going to have your desk research until 12:15. After which you're going to have a 15-minute working lunch. So a working lunch means you're going to be chatting with your teams while you're having your break. Okay, because it's the first day, it's going to be a little bit hectic. So please chat together, try to solve these problems together as a team. All right, and if needs be for me to break the ice with some of the other teams like you mentioned, I am more than happy to do so. So Sophia, I saw you wrote something. Oh yes, you said my team doesn't seem to want to talk. Sophia, you're in team 1. Okay, I'm going to have I'll have a little session with you guys after this. All right, so don't worry about that. And then Aaliyah asked, how many people does my team have to interview? Okay, remember, and I don't think I mentioned this. Oh, I did at the beginning. I said, you have the choice to either conduct an interview or do a survey, or you can do both. And this is what we suggest. We suggest you do both. They try to send your survey out to around 20 to 25 people and try to interview 4 to 6 people. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Nargis, you also have a question?
Yeah, can you please repeat the agenda? What time mode we should do what? Sorry.
Okay, so speaking of Nargis, can you guys raise your hand if you're having problems with Thinkific? I think I'm noticing that there's a lot of people struggling with Thinkific. Okay, Nkose, Raf. Okay. All right. So Nkose, what seems to be the problem with Thinkific?
Every time I tried to sign up for a Thinkific account, it asks when I asked for my name, my first name and last name, gender and email. I fill that out. I also accept the terms and services, and then I click sign up, and then the page just reloads back to the same form survey asking for my name and stuff like that. It just reloads, resetting everything.
So the reason that is, Nkose, is because all of you already have Thinkific accounts, okay? I already have your parents' emails, it seems. A lot of your parents signed up on Thinkific. So you need to speak to your parents and ask them for the login details. And then once you've logged into your Thinkific, you can update the details and change it to your own email and name. So I think that might be the issue you're all struggling with. Speak to your parents and ask for the logins. And if you're still struggling, please send me a message. Okay. Wenjia, you have a question.
Oh, it was just about the Thinkific, but I'll just ask my parents.
Okay, yes. Niranjan?
My parents don't know anything about Thinkific, so what should we do?
Okay, you are signed in, Niranjan. Did you sign in or did your parents sign up to Thinkific for you?
I think my parents were signed in.
So if your parents signed in, then they have the logins. What I'm going to do on my side, I'm going to see if I can go into the back end and send messages because I think I did see something like that. And then something should come to your email. And from there, you'll be able to access Thinkific. And I think it also gives you the option to change your password. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do after this session. Is anyone else who had their hand raised? Okay. Okay, Arthur's asking for a link. Oh, sorry, Ayalim, give me a second. Arthur, there is a link on Discord. Okay. Okay, Ayalim, you were saying?
I had the same problem with Thinkific, but then like I filled out my basic information and then it would give me the like questions as if I'm some kind of organization. Then I just pressed like reset my password and it recognized me as one of your team members, like teams in AI, and then it was okay.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to check that out. So it recognizes you as a team member. Are you sure it's not saying that you are under the group AI for Good Incubator?
I don't know, but I can send you a screenshot of.
Yes, please send me a screenshot on Discord. I'll really, really appreciate that, and I'll help you with that. Okay. All right. Anyone else struggling?
I'm just wondering if anyone who has got any issues, do you mind direct messaging Ntsika? And she's going to help you just so that we've got all of these issues on record and we can help you this way. And everyone who does not have any issues anymore, Ntsika, what's their next step and action?
So, yes, now it's time for you to do your secondary research, okay, your desk research. This is when you're going to be going on the internet, using books, finding out more about the context of your How Might We. Right, this is a group session. So like Elena mentioned earlier, use the voice channels on Discord. And this is going to be your session. It's an hour session. It's an hour and 15 minutes. So until 12:15, this is what you're going to be doing, researching with your teams. And then from 12:15 to 1:45, you have your working lunch, as I mentioned. After which you're going to start formulating your questions under your research planning for your interviews and surveys. And then within that session, you'll have 30 minutes to speak to your design thinking mentors. Okay, since they are already on your channels, please just pop them a message or at them and ask them if they'll be available. Well, they are available, but ask them if they're ready and give them a time when you would like to start that 30-minute mentoring session with them, okay? And then, of course, you're going to have a 15-minute break after that, and the rest of your day is then going to be spent conducting your first interviews. All right. So again, it's important that you're able to use your Thinkific because your agenda is there. Right.
All right, so those who don't have issues logging in, I recommend you go back to Discord and jump on voice calls with your team members. If Discord voice does not work for you, feel free to schedule Zoom meetings with your team if Zoom is easier for you, or Google Hangout as well. So there are lots of free tools out there where you can schedule calls with your team if Discord voice does not work for you. But we prefer you to use Discord voice, but for people like me, it doesn't work sometimes. I've tried Discord voice on my laptop several times and it only works on my mobile for some reason. It's very odd. So, and those of you who have issues, I want to try to address them as soon as possible. And Ntsika, I'm wondering, maybe those who have issues, maybe they can stay on the call and we can address this now.
Definitely. Let's sort
Yeah.
it out as
So
soon
those
as
of you
possible.
who are having technical issues and you can't access our Learn platform or you know, things on Discord, just stay on the call and let's help you straight away.
Okay, I'm going to end the recording now.
Cool.